Stay Focused. I'm Kelvin Law. Our topic is arboriculture. My guest is Christopher Hayward. Christopher is a Massachusetts certified arborist, and he also works for the city of Quincy as a tree warden. Christopher has been in the tree industry for roughly 13 years, and he is here today to share his expertise with us about trees and the topic as well. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Glad you can join me.
My pleasure.
So let's have some fun, if you will. So
Very good.
Great. So the first question is, what is the difference between an arborist and a landscaper?
So the difference between an arborist and a landscaper is it's more what you're focused on. An arborist focuses his or her expertise on trees. What type of tree to be planted, where it's going to be planted, the suitable location, how that tree is going to react to certain different types of climate change, critters and pests that may be in our area that would attack certain trees. So we don't want to be planting things like that. So, and then also, if something is attacking this tree, what is it? How can we fix it? So you're really focused on trees. Landscaping is a much more broad topic. Landscapers deal with maintenance, they deal with construction, they deal with planting, they deal with small plants, flowers. I'm not a real good flower guy, but I know trees. So they deal with a lot of different things. I've met a lot of people that are landscapers that are also focusing their efforts on arboriculture because it's becoming a very important thing. Trees are very important. So it's that detailed expertise. That's really what differs between an arborist and a landscaper.
I see. It sounds like your job is a fun job, I guess, huh?
Absolutely.
You get to drive different places.
It can be very fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So it sounds like a dream job.
You know, when I was a kid, I got into this business because it goes way back to when I was in elementary school, and our gym teacher took us outside one day and said, "Hey, I want to plant a tree for Arbor Day." And we're all like, "This isn't gym class." We went out there and he planted the tree, and he got us so excited and involved in that. And I never really thought about it over the years until I got this job in the town of Watertown, and they said, "You're going to be our tree warden as well as these number of other jobs." And it intrigued me. And the more I get involved in trees, the more I like it, because people love trees. People hate trees. There's an emotional attachment to trees. They provide us so many benefits, which we can discuss as we're going along here. But I really enjoy my job.
That's great. Yeah, it's good to know. Yeah. So in terms of jobs, I mean, what kind of dangerous instances that you have dealt with in the past? Is it a dangerous job? I mean,
I feel personally that being an arborist, especially a functioning arborist out in the field, where I'm more of a managing arborist and sometimes have to take a role as a functioning arborist, I feel it's a very dangerous profession, mostly because of the unpredictability of weather and the unpredictability of whether a tree that is failing and how it fails. Sometimes you'll look at a tree and you'll say, "Geez, that's a perfectly fine tree." And then a limb will just break off of it because of interior decay that you can't see. It's a very dangerous job, and especially with the storms that we're now starting to have. Recently, we've had some windstorms here. The duration of the storm is only about 5 or 10 minutes long, but trees are breaking apart at a rapid rate because of the ferocity and the speeds of these winds. And when you're out in the field and you're trying to clean up a street and there's trees all around and they're bending and snapping, it can be very dangerous. You really have to have eyes in the back of your head and a very reliable crew around you to make sure that we're all looking out for each other.
Oh yeah, no doubt, because thunderstorms or windstorms could be destructive, to plants, to trees, even to properties as well. Especially properties with a lot of big trees around them.
Right.
And those could be, dangerous, if one of them fall to the property.
Absolutely.
It could do some damages, if you will.
Serious damage.
So what does it mean to be an SIA certified,
ISA?
ISA, I'm sorry, ISA
right.
certified or mass certified arborist?
So going back to that question about what is the difference between an arborist and a landscaper, arborists, there's another level, certified arborist. And that's basically just a way to keep you on top of everything that's changing in our field, whether it be the pests, whether it be the technology, whether it be the equipment, whether it be many different things. So when you go for these certain types of certifications, ISA being the International Society of Arboriculture, or Massachusetts Certified Arborist, which I am, is issued through the Massachusetts Arborist Association. These are educational associations that require you to be educated every year to remain in your current standing as an arborist through educational credits, professional development series. I'm part of the Massachusetts Tree Wardens and Foresters Association as well. We have our own professional development series that just keeps us educated so that we're not just going out and saying, geez, I've never seen this before. And with the way the world is now, with a lot of trading worldwide and going on, we're seeing things in our country that we haven't seen before. Invasive pests, invasive pathogens. We really need to be on top of these things before they get too out of control. So these organizations help us to stay educated. Working with many universities, I have lots of colleagues out at UMass Amherst. There's webinars monthly through UMass Amherst where we have other educators from around the country, even around the world, that get involved and give us some education, and we keep up our credits that way.
Yeah, sounds great because being an arborist sounds like fun and a very interesting job, if you will. But you have to keep up with different knowledge and different level of in terms of codes, right, of trees and stuff like that, probably. So
Absolutely.
And so it's a lot of involvement here. It sounds like.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You may have heard this term, the arborists referred to as a tree surgeon. We're not anything like a surgeon. I would never compare myself to a doctor. But when I come up to some more senior folks, sometimes residents, they'll say, "Oh, thank goodness the tree surgeon's here." So to be a surgeon, you have to be staying on top of that education. There's new advances, there's new technology. Now I'm dealing with trees, not quite the same as the human body, but still, there's many things for us to learn. There's many things that I'm still learning every single day in my job.
Yeah, it sounds like there are a lot of things involved within a tree. Is similar to a human body, if you will. Yeah. So
Similar systems.
what's that?
There are similar systems.
That's right. That's
Circulation,
right.
of course.
Yep, that's right. So yeah, it's good to know. Yeah. So in terms of planting a tree, when is the best time to plant a tree or trees?
Spring or fall are the best times to plant trees, and depending on species. Some species take better to be planted in the spring. Some species take better to be planted in the fall. But the best time really to do it in those two seasons, in the fall, is after the leaves have dropped off the tree. It's best time to do it then. They've taken all their energy that they can from the leaves, sent it down back into their root system, so that when they pop up in the spring, they've got that full amount of energy and they can really start to set their roots. In the spring, the best time to do it is before those leaves pop. Get those trees into the ground so that when they start to pop those buds and those leaves, that they're in the ground and they can really start to attack, spread those roots the best way they can.
It's interesting. So what are the popular trees and plants that you have been dealing with?
So the most popular request I get nowadays is, I want something native. I want something that's from locally around here. This is very important because of our wildlife. If you take a tree that may grow within our climate zones from another part of the world and you bring it here, the critters that live here don't exactly know what to do with it. It seems like, geez, it's like going to a restaurant and seeing that one thing in the menu you've never had before, and maybe you don't know what it is, you can't pronounce it or whatever. I think I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to stick with the regular thing. So the critters in the wildlife that we have in our area are more prone to go to native species and thrive and be beneficial to our environment. So Native species such as red maples, sugar maples, birch, serviceberry, trees like that. One of my favorite trees is the white oak, which is native to our area. I don't get a lot of requests for oaks anymore, mostly because of the acorns. I get so many complaints about dented hoods on your car, the noise off your roof. I don't want all these acorns in my front yard, but it is really one of my favorite trees. The right tree in the right place is our motto. So whatever tree that people are requesting, you want to make sure that it's the right tree for that location so it doesn't cause a problem 20 years from now when the tree is mature.
Right. So when you plant a tree, does it have to be in the right type of soil so that it helps to nurture the tree and also grow faster, if you will?
Absolutely. Soil is very important to the tree. You can just dig a hole and throw a tree in it, but don't expect a lot of great things from it unless you amend that soil. For instance, my business, I have to plant a lot of trees along the sides of streets. On these sides of streets, many, pollution gathers, roads have been constructed, so there's asphalt chunks, there's concrete chunks, there's maybe an old chunk of a curb. You just can't put a tree in a hole like that and expect that it's going to survive. Trees are investment, so we need to make sure we have to build a good foundation, just most like our children. Build that good foundation and the tree will survive and provide the benefits that we want the most. So amendments such as peat moss. Sometimes you can even take that soil, take a couple bits of soil from around the location, send it to UMass. UMass has a soil analysis lab, and they'll tell you what amendments you may need. Maybe it's a little too acidic, maybe it's a little too basic. So there are different things you could add to that soil, but you really do want to set that good foundation. Soil is very important.
So if people want to educate themselves, should they look into those like certified websites for tree services or for arboriculture services?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Those are resources, right?
There's great information on these websites. The ISA, International Society of Arboriculture, actually has their own booklets on many different things, how to plant a tree. You can even go to our state and federal authorities. U.S. Department of Agriculture has information you can get. Right here in our own state, Department of Conservation and Recreation, Massachusetts, we have an urban forestry, they have an urban forestry unit that you could get information on their website about. There's plenty of information out there to educate yourself on a tree. Or you could call a local arborist, call a certified arborist, or call your local tree warden. I always enjoy getting phone calls from residents that want to know more, want to know, I'm going to be planting this type of tree in my backyard. Would it be, a suitable tree? Would you mind coming by and taking a look at the location? Now, I can't always do that, but anytime I can find some time to help out, I certainly would.
So why are trees so valuable to a property, and why should people invest in them?
There's so many benefits to trees. If you think about a property without any trees, the first thing that comes to my mind is dry. Second thing that comes to my mind is hot, sunny, dusty. When you start to put the right vegetation, the right trees, the right shrubs in the right location, you're really building the aesthetic, first of all. It's what you're seeing as you're driving down the road. And then the next things after that are the benefits that it provides. You plant a tree in the right place on the southern side of your home, and your AC bills are going to be way lower because you won't need to be cooling off a cool house from the shade. You plant the right line of windbreak shrubs, say arborvitaes or cedar in the right places on the northeast side of the house. That'll break down that wind so that the wind doesn't hit your house as hard in the wintertime. There's so many different things. If you have a stormwater problem, maybe you have a little bit of water in your basement, you plant the right tree in the right location on your property, that'll really absorb a lot of that stormwater. So there's so many benefits to planting the right types of species in your yard and maintaining then what you've got. Think about what this tree is going to look like in 20 years. Another motto in my business is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. I'm in the business that everything grows super slow. So when I cut down a tree, people get very upset. When people cut down a tree in their yard, they're never going to get that shade, that benefit, probably for a long time, unless they want to spend an awful lot of money and get something a little bit more mature. But it takes a lot more take care of something that's that
It takes
mature.
time to grow, no doubt. Yeah. So it depends on what type of trees as well. Some take longer, and some take faster to grow.
Right.
So it all depends. So when it comes to cutting down trees, I mean, should they consult like an expert like yourself before they cut down any trees?
First and foremost, cutting down a tree is a dangerous project. You really want to make sure you know what you're doing. It's, again, unpredictable. It's predictable if you know what you're doing and you have the right tools. If you just decide you're going to go out there and cut down a tree, you've seen it, you've heard it. People cut down trees and it falls on a house, falls on a car, falls on a shed, falls in a location that it's going to be very difficult for you to get it out. It's always, always very important to make sure that you're talking with the right professional to help you cut down a tree. Don't just do it on your own.
So what about trees that's sitting on the curbside and encroaching towards the property? Can they still cut down those branches that encroaching their property, or should they consult, the arborist?
So if the tree doesn't belong to you, isn't on your property, it either belongs to the city or an abutting neighbor. You really need to communicate with the city or the abutting neighbor. We'll use the city, for example, because I'm a tree warden. If you have a tree encroaching onto your property that is a city-owned public tree, I need to know about this so that I can get my crew out there to take care of it. If the tree's hitting your house, we need to prune that back. If the tree is bad and it's starting to lean or you have a fear of it, I have to get out there and determine what the problem is and make sure we remedy it so that property isn't damaged and, or God forbid, somebody gets hurt. If it's a neighbor's tree, an abutting tree, you really need to know, to let your neighbor know what's going on, what are your concerns about their tree. There's a law in Massachusetts saying that you have the right to prune anything hanging over your property. But if you prune that tree poorly and the tree dies, you could be held liable for the value of that tree. So it's very important that you communicate with your neighbor, that your concerns. Maybe your neighbor can't help you out. Tough times we're all going through right now. Maybe your neighbor might not be able to help you out. But as long as you talk with the neighbor and you prune it the right way, then you have the right to do that in Massachusetts.
I see. So why trees change colors during the autumn?
So this is a great, school question, great science question. But it's an interesting question, especially we're in the month of November and our peak color is behind us. Trees are very sensitive to their environment. They know what's going on and they have to react appropriately. Trees are green. Most of them are green in the summertime because of a pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll actually harnesses light from its photosynthesis. We've heard of that for science class. Yes. Photosynthesis is the act of the tree creating food for itself to live. When the sun starts to get a little bit lower in the sky, there's not as much light, the trees don't want to continue using that chlorophyll. It's like a factory making, say, sneakers for a population that already has way too many sneakers. We're not going to be making any more money. We really need to slow down production. So the tree is looking at it as energy. I don't want to be spending this much more energy to be harnessing light that I can't get anyway. So when the chlorophyll factory shuts down, there are other pigments that are located in the leaf. Reds, yellows, oranges, browns. Those pigments really come to life. And then over time, the leaf seals itself off at the stem and it breaks off. But that's how we really get the colors in the leaves. They're already there. The chlorophyll is so dominant in the summertime, we just don't see the reds and the pinks and the orange and the yellows.
Interesting. So how can you tell whether the tree is healthy or not?
Very hard. It's very hard. Even for a person in my job, it's very hard. One of my jobs in the city of Quincy is to assess all the trees in the city, make sure that they're all healthy so that nothing happens. Last winter, I was going along and I'm assessing trees that they look perfectly fine to me in the wintertime. Unless you have certain types of tools, which I do, I have probes, I have drills that I can drill in and core to see the density of the wood within the tree, it's very difficult to tell. If a tree doesn't have leaves on it, everyone thinks it's dead. I get that call all the time. You've got to come and take down my tree, it's dead. And then in the springtime, it looks beautiful. So you really need to you want to talk to someone, you want to have an expert. Sometimes it's easy to tell. There's fungus around the trunk, there's cavities, there's birds moving in and out. There's raccoons. There's all kinds of critters that are living in the trees. It's very easy to tell. Limbs are breaking off in just a minor wind. It's very easy to tell. But a lot of times it can be very difficult. So make sure you talk with an expert.
Yeah, they should. Yeah. So last question. What is a tree warden? I think you mentioned a little bit at the beginning as well.
Yeah. So a tree warden is the hired arborist for a municipality, and we are the enforcers of the Massachusetts Public Shade Tree Act, Chapter 87 in the Mass General Laws. That law has been around since the beginning of the 1900s. It's a pretty old law. Tree wardens go back even further than that. The story that I have been told by multiple professors at UMass and many old-time tree wardens that I've talked to, who I've become very friendly with. Tree warden, the term goes all the way back to the Revolutionary times. Back in Boston, when the colonists were thinking about, we gotta really take care of these British. We're done these taxes. We're done with all this representation and all this stuff. They would gather under certain trees in the Boston Common, and they would talk about, we're seeing where the British soldiers are going over here and over there. This is where we can attack. And the British soldiers would now realize, hey, that's their gathering place. You know what, tonight we're going to cut down that tree so they won't have a gathering place. So as trees were being cut down, the colonists got together and said, we need someone to stay overnight and protect this tree. You're going to be our tree warden. So that's where it really comes from, tree warden, the protector of the trees. So now I'm the protector of the trees for a municipality. My job is to be out there meeting with residents, meeting with developers, making sure that our investment, the city's trees, are doing what they're supposed to be doing, providing the benefits of air pollution control, noise pollution control, light pollution control, stormwater management, the aesthetics. There are reports that a tree-lined street, actually crime rates are lower in areas such as that. Mostly because it's a feel-good neighborhood type of feel. People are proud to live there. They're happy to live there. So it's my job to make sure that the trees are safe, the public is safe. I carry around this little thing with me. I show people all the time. I don't know if you can get this on here. So these are the things that I do too. This is an Asian longhorn beetle. This is an actual beetle. This is out in Worcester, unfortunately. It's under control now. But these are the things I look for. I have people, as a tree warden, people bring me bugs in mayonnaise jars, and I have to identify them. I've got a great bunch of friends out in UMass Amherst that are entomologists that I can take a picture of it and say, what is this? Should I be worried about it? So a tree warden, I'm involved in all types of different things. I also work with the Conservation Department. I work with the Department of Public Works. I work with the Planning Department. I'm involved in many different things, which is one of the big reasons I like my job so much is there's never a day that's like the day before. So it's very
diverse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very diverse.
That's great. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your expertise.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Cal.
Thank you, Christopher. Yeah. So, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope that Christopher just shared information is helpful to you. I want to thank you so much, and hope to see you next time.